two bills that the governor decided here in Virginia that he would take action on. One he vetoed, and the other one he approved. And there's some. It's kind of good. So Delegate Maldonado, who's been pushing this now for 2 years, to try to get deep fakes and others incorporated into the law as an element of fraud, for defamation, for libel, for slander, was partially successful in the last term of Governor Youngkin. So 697 was actually vetoed by the governor, and that's curious because that would create a cause of action if you used AI generated activities, digital media, etc. That would create, among other things, a ability to use AI to damage somebody in their business, maybe for political purposes, etc. And that would have been a very good one to have. But the governor, interestingly, did not want to have a cause of action against anyone. And in particular, he cites how he felt it would be toxic for political purposes. My word, but political purposes was part of his veto, which is curious because you would think that everybody would be interested in preventing fraud of somebody using your likeness in a political campaign, for example, having you say something that's ridiculous, stupid, offensive, or what have you, and get you to lose the election. The one that he did approve was 2124, and that one gives a cause of action for other types of fraud that directly have to do with personal libel, slander, defamation, etc., and creates a new class 1 misdemeanor for that. So that's really good news. In other news, noteworthy here, we have received on my site 270, on I.C.A.C. Unpacked here, about 270 troll attacks on the last couple of videos I did. And what the trolls are doing is what a new tranche of trolls, I call them, are doing again, is they're trying to go through and mine every bit of what they can pull out of the court records to demonstrate that I must be lying. And without going into everything again, because I've talked about this 3 or 4 times, let's assume for a moment, I'm going to play a game here with them. Let's assume that they're absolutely right. Let's say I went through all this time and energy and effort, even though I'm lying about everything. Let's just assume that for the sake of argument in this hypothetical. So we still have the problem of I.C.A.C. going out there and using lots and lots of taxpayer money and coming up with very little to show for their efforts. Very little used to get people who would really traffic children on adult websites. And that's really our issue. This particular troll here, like John MVA, this is Mike Hunt, John MVA and others, love to twist my words around. They say, well, you keep talking that there's no protective stance of law enforcement on the deep and the dark web. No, I don't say that. I say that's where a lot of their efforts need to be, as well as local places too. It's very hard to catch abuse because you have a 14th Amendment and a 5th Amendment right to raise your children, have people come in and out of your home and stuff. And unless they kick in every 8th door, as I've suggested, they're not going to get it all. Okay, it's just not going to happen. For digital actors and people who can use media with great savvy, they have all sorts of ways that they can hide things, and that's why they ought to be focused in the areas that they can make the largest bit of difference. Where it is not happening, we have maintained, as much as they want to claim, is on adult dating sites where people are there to hook up. They're not there to hook up primarily with children. And if police would back off on that, I wonder how many people would be saying, hey, where are the children? Where are the children? I'm looking for some children over here. Very, very few. And their numbers would plummet. And we think that because of that, their numbers would plummet because it's just easier to get people there than anywhere else. And because it's easier to get people there than everywhere else, that's where they do it. Now, to the general public, it sounds like they're doing great work. But every time police have one of these, as I did in Bloomington, Minnesota recently, one of these press conferences, there are many questions that we have. All right, lots of questions. Tell me about the chats that you are running. We know, for example, that police begin the chats. We know, for example, that very often they're the first one to bring up sex. That they, when you say that you're not interested with children, sex with children, you would think that would stop it. But instead, they keep pushing. And what is the constitutional reason? I get why the trolls want it, because they see pervs everywhere, particularly when many of them look in the mirror. And this deflects from what's really happening with many of them. And again, folks, we've seen it over and over and over again. Okay, I've talked about it on this channel, so it's not like I'm making it up. So even if you believed that I was making everything up, it doesn't change the fundamental facts that police are setting people up. It doesn't change the fact that there's ample and growing evidence that they have manipulated, coerced, lost, altered, corrupted, or otherwise impaired investigations and evidence by their suddenly sloppy tendencies right when they have to turn over the goods for evaluation by a digital forensic analyst. Those are facts. They are happening with great alacrity and they need to be dealt with. Okay? And so we're going to be talking about what has been going on with the trolls here coming up in a few days. I also have to complete our series, How Old Is She? And How Old Is He? I've got one more, I think, in the hopper for that. And then there's the very exciting issue in the Eastern District of Michigan in the federal court system having to do with a major case that could have implications for the rest of us regarding the registry and its violation of constitutional rights, First Amendment rights, 14th Amendment, Fifth Amendment rights, double jeopardy rights. The confrontation clause, I think, was in there, but I may have missed that. Due process clause was certainly in there. And its ex post facto is certainly in there as well. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow. I think I'll have time to whip that out. But that's all I have for today. Some good news here in Virginia. And the question really is, I'll leave you with this. At what point would there be a realization that police are creating synthetic media and impersonating adults on dating platforms? At what point will that be looked at not as a legitimate investigative tool, as it surely is used sometimes, but as an illiberal, illegitimate tool to entrap people who wouldn't otherwise have the mens rea to go after children? That's what you should think about. But it's good news. Virginia's moving in the right direction in so many ways. And with that, I leave you to your afternoon. This is I.C.A.C. Unpacked. I'm Norman Michael Asian. Have a good day.